this series, we talk to the scientists at the Dangoor Center for Personalized Medicine. We want to get a closer look at what's happening in their research laboratories, what developments are expected to reach the market, and what medicine will look like in the coming years. This time, we host Dr. Yaara Erez. Dr. Yaara Erez is a brain network researcher at the Faculty of Engineering in the field of bioengineering. She is head of the Neural Processing and Brain Networks Laboratory, which deals with brain research using advanced methods, and a member of the Brain Research Center at Bar-Ilan University. She won a prestigious Royal Society Fellowship in England and has published her work in a variety of leading journals. Dr. Erez, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So let's start with something. I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about something that obviously matters a lot to you. Tell us about the brain. What makes it so complex and wonderful, maybe the most interesting organ in the human body?
So we have about 86 billion brain cells or neurons in the brain. Each of them have thousands of connections with other neurons. The brain is responsible for everything that we do, feel, say, think, regulating all of our body systems, and communication is transferred very quickly between the neurons, like every millisecond. All the time things are happening. It's like a very big orchestra that needs the perfect timing for the perfect thing to happen and the right thing. And it's a lot. It's very complex. A lot is going on. And just with the numbers, you can see how difficult it is to orchestrate all of this and make this what I sometimes call brain music.
That's a lovely term. And does everyone's brain work the same? Is it, your brain, my brain? Obviously, yours is a little different. You're a researcher, but we'll give you a little extra credit on that one. But generally, do our brains look the same?
So there are great similarities between the brains of everyone. We all have two parts or two hemispheres of the brain. We have different parts in each of the hemispheres. We have connections or fibers that connect them. We have similar structures, and we can see them with different neuroimaging methods. But we also have differences. It's like our hands or legs or any other body part. We all have very similar hands, but they are also slightly different. So there are similarities, but there are also differences, and this is what we try to address in our research.
So we're here because you're a member of the Dangoor Center for Personalized Medicine. And the way you just explained it clearly, there are certain similarities among our brains, but there's also something very personalized about it. We're used to, when we talk about personalized medicine, thinking about treatments or medication, but that's not the area that you're focused on in your laboratory, correct?
Yes.
What are you focusing on exactly?
So we are looking at the organization of brain areas and their function and how they communicate together to create what we call brain networks. And we do that to ask both basic science questions and clinically related questions. One of the main projects in our lab is work that we do with patients with brain tumors. And for brain tumors, there are, by the way, many different types of brain tumors, over 100 types, and they are all slightly different. We specifically work with brain tumors that are called diffuse low-grade gliomas, so they are not very aggressive, but they also spread into the nearby tissue. And for many brain tumors, the first line of treatment is usually a brain surgery to remove the tumor. And there is a really fine balance between removing as much as possible of the tumor on one hand, but also preserve function, cognitive function, any function, so patients can have good quality of life following surgery. And there is a need to get the best and most detailed understanding of each patient's brain and how the different areas and regions are related to the different functions to make sure that we don't damage these functions and preserve them following the surgery.
So that's what you do, is someone will come in and you'll sort of map the different parts of their brain so that when the surgeon is in that gray area, right? Obviously, they have to get rid of the tumor. But my understanding is that every surgeon wants to take a little bit extra, just in case it spread a little bit. They don't want to have to go in again. And it's in those gray spaces that your laboratory is working to really individually determine how everyone's brain works in those spaces and what the association between that specific part of the brain is and a particular function. Yes?
Exactly. So there is the core of the tumor that definitely needs to be removed. But because the tumors are spread on the boundary is not very clear between the tumor and healthy tissue. And these are the areas where we want to map in great detail. And there are already some tools to do that, and they are excellent, but they are also quite coarse. And the way that this is done, not yet related to our specific research, already done in many medical centers around the world, is using a procedure that is called functional mapping to map function. And in many cases, this is done while patients are awake. So during their surgery, they are being awakened.
Wow.
And then they are asked to do all sorts of different simple tasks like talking or counting or looking at pictures and saying what they see. And while they do that, neurosurgeons use brief pulses of electrical stimulation. It's really tiny. It's not electrical shock. It's not painful. And the idea of the use of this electrical stimulation is that if the stimulated area leads to very brief impairment in function, like the patient stopped talking, it's reversible just for the brief moment of the stimulation. So if the patient, for example, stopped talking, then the conclusion is that this area is related to the tested function, in this case, speech production. And this is being used mostly for motor function, like movement of different body parts, and some aspects related to language and speech production. But obviously, we are more than that. These functions, they are really important, but we as people have many more cognitive functions, and we want people to go back to their normal life after surgery.
So you said these are already in operation, no pun intended, in these medical centers. So what is your lab focused on? What do you bring in addition to take it to the next level? And why is it important what you're doing?
So we want to expand as much as possible the repertoire of functions that we can map during surgeries. And what my lab focuses on is executive function, both in our basic science stream and clinical science stream.
I'm just going to pause for a moment. What do you mean by executive function?
Okay, I was just about to say.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's good. So executive function is a collection of mental processes that help us to regulate everything that we do, that we feel, that we see, to reach our goals. For example, when I want to do a task, but then I need to switch to a different task because something has happened, or I see information, but I need to filter out some distractors because I really need to focus on something and ignore all the distractions.
So this is a space where I'm just as a layperson, a lot of ADHD kids, right? They say they have executive function issues.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's very common across many different disorders. But even when it's not impaired, we all use it in our daily life. When we go to a new place, when we plan a party, when we cook a meal, we need to plan, we need to switch between different tasks, we need to focus, and so on. So this is really important for everything that we do. It allows us to have flexibility in our thinking.
So it's much more complex in some ways than whether I can speak or I can walk.
Exactly.
It's almost the organization of all of those other skills.
Exactly. It's like a control center. We can think about it as something that really controls everything that we do. And back to patients with brain tumors, we know that that many patients have deficits in executive function following surgery. But at the moment, there are no good tools to map these functions. During surgery, it's quite complicated to do that with stimulation for all sorts of reasons. And what we suggested is to use a different approach. Instead of using stimulation, we want to record or listen to brain activity using a method called electrocorticography, or in short, we call it ECoG, that allows us to place flat electrodes, special electrodes, directly on the surface of the brain. So it's very invasive. It's done during the surgery. These electrodes are used for other purposes, and we suggested to use them to map different brain functions and specifically executive functions during surgeries.
Are there certain parts of the brain where executive function takes place? Like in general, I understand everyone's brain's a little different, or is it something where there are neurons all around the brain that are associated with this function?
It's an excellent question. So there are certain areas that are distributed across all the brain. So there are some areas in the front of the brain, like roughly here. There are some areas a bit more to the back, but not fully to the back, like around here. Some here are on the sides, and they communicate with many other different regions to process information and regulate everything that we do. So in our research, indeed, we focus on those regions. The problem for neurosurgeons during surgery, so they know this information.
Okay.
So your executive function, brain systems and mine are roughly in the same place. But for surgery, we need to be much more accurate. We are not interested in the average areas, in the average person. Exactly.
Precise.
We want to be precise, and we want to create maps of brain function in each individual. And this is critical for patients.
Understood, right. Because, again, going back to what you said originally, it's do I cut a millimeter or a nanometer to the right, or do I leave it? And there may be differences between your brain and mine when it comes to those very, very small differences, very precise measurements.
Exactly. So we see it also using other methods in healthy participants. For example, in one of our studies, we used a functional MRI or fMRI, and I can talk about it perhaps later. But we do see these differences between individuals, and they are quite big. They are quite substantial. So for surgery, we suggested to use electrocorticography. We record electrical brain activity. Each electrode records activity of thousands of neurons, and what we have found is that we were able to identify a functional signature in the signals that we recorded that corresponds to executive function and the brain systems that are involved, from what we know from many other studies.
Are they already using this in surgery?
So there are some designated systems that can use our approach to do that in real time during surgeries. And we are focusing on optimizing what we do, creating much more detailed maps, expanding the kinds of tasks that we ask patients to do, because not everyone can do the same tasks. So we are working in this domain.
It sounds like you work in your laboratory with a crossover, not just of biology or neurology, but also using AI, using computer science, using some more advanced technology. Is that correct? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we use lots of different technologies, and what we specialize in is signal processing of neural signals. And we like all the signals, and we know how to work with each of them, and they complement each other. This allows us to ask all sorts of different questions. So, for example, we use electrocorticography during surgery, but we also want to predict outcome for patients. When patients are diagnosed, the first two things that they want to know is how long they are going to live and how their quality of life will be. So and at the moment, there are not good enough predictive tools. And we want to use all sorts of different kinds of information from the different methods, also clinical parameters, to be able to develop models that can predict the outcome for patients. So, for example, we also collect data from patients, neuroimaging data, for example, with MRI before surgery, but also after surgery, and we see how this relates to their cognitive outcome. And this is one aspect where AI comes in, because that allows us to integrate all these different kinds of information to create these predictive models. We also use AI tools when we process our signals. We have many great other advanced analysis techniques to look at what we want to look at, but AI adds on top of that even more advanced tools to identify those patterns in the neural signals that we are interested in.
So when you say AI, you mean some sort of, it's not a robot, right? Some sort of artificial intelligence, we call it, that can look through big data and to pull out patterns and can help beyond what a human brain on its own. You can't go through, I don't know what amount of sample size we're talking about, but thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever it is. Is that what you mean by using AI mostly?
So it's big data, but in a slightly different way than what we're used to think about it. And we also use models that don't necessarily have to have big data, like machine learning models, all sorts of statistical methods to pick those patterns and identify them. So when we collect neural data, we have lots of data per patient. It has its own challenges to use the different models, and this is part of what we do. We adjust the models to fit the kind of data that we have. On the other end of this scale, we want to generalize across patients or across people, and here we may have lots of data per person or per individual, but and that's a problem of all the medicine world. We usually don't have enough samples or enough patients with the kind of data that we need. So we also work on how we can approach that and what we need to do in order to make some predictions nevertheless.
Right. It's a balance.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to generalize, but obviously, as you were saying, everyone's brain is somewhat different. But that doesn't mean we're talking radically different. You should be able to hopefully draw general conclusions as well. And it sounds like you're doing both.
Yes, exactly. So that's part of what we try to do and link that to their cognitive outcome.
Do you work with actual patients, or are you in your laboratory most of the time in your research?
So we actually work with the patients. We go to the surgeries. We are there ourselves, either me or my team, and we are there. We collect the data. We talk to the patients together with the clinical team. Of course, we have clinical collaborators. We are joining a very sensitive time in the patient's life, and we are there to collect the data, but also much of our work is focused on the data analysis of those complex signals. We have really rich data sets, so it takes a lot of time to figure out what's there.
Do patients, you have such a lovely manner about you, but do patients respond positively when you show up? Meaning it's this, as you said, this really challenging moment in their life. Are they happy that someone, from the research is coming in and saying, we want to learn from you, but we also want to help make this more precise? Like, where do they fall out on this when you come in and talk to them?
So we are really grateful to all the patients that contributed to our research and agreed to take part. They all volunteer to do that, so they are being offered the possibility, but they choose to do that. And it's really generous of them to do that, because they know that it might not help them specifically, but may help others down the road. So it's really exciting for us, and we treat the data that we collect, especially during surgery, with great respect and humility for that.
That's lovely. Let's back up a moment, okay? Now we know what you do. How did you get here? What made you decide? Did you were a little girl who was like, I want to study brains. How did you get to a place, especially, and it's not traditional, it's a whole, intersection of biology, engineering, computer science, bioengineering, all of this. How did you get here?
So I was born and raised in Kibbutz Bet Hashita in the north of Israel. Mm-hmm. I was always curious as a child, and I like to learn new things. I think the people around me just had no choice but let me grow and develop with it. And when I was in high school, I moved to Jerusalem to the Israeli Arts and Science Academy, or YASA. Mm-hmm. And there, for the first time, I was exposed to the field of neuroscience as an extracurricular course. And I was fascinated, really. And it was still early. I was young, but it got stuck in my mind. Mm-hmm. Years later, when I went to university, I studied computer science and psychology. I realized only later on that was like an excellent background for the work that I do at the moment with mathematical skills and programming and all the analytic side on one hand and also the cognitive side on the other hand to do neuroscience research. I also worked in the high-tech industry as a software developer for a while, and then moved to do a direct track PhD at Bar-Ilan University at the Gonda Brain Research Center.
Nice.
And it was really important for me to combine basic science and clinical science. In my PhD, I work on Parkinson's disease and studied mechanisms underlying this disease and treatment that is called deep brain stimulation for Parkinson's disease patients. So I think it was like a path that I followed along my passions and thoughts every time for the next step.
And everything just came together perfectly in this moment. Yeah, I know the Gonda Brain Center has an fMRI, right? Don't they have one of the functional MRIs there?
Actually, no.
No? I thought they did.
So they have a different scanner that is called MEG, or magnetoencephalogram, which is unique, and it's the only one in Israel.
Okay.
And recently they purchased a new, very advanced MEG system.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
where someone can be awake while they're doing it, which is...
Exactly. Right. And it's really unique here in Israel and allows us to grasp like really fine details of brain activity.
Interesting. So good place to study. But you did go off to England, right?
Yes.
And you lived there for a little while.
Yeah, for
what
some
brought
time.
you back to Israel? We talk all the time here about brain drain. Your English is perfect. Obviously, at University of Cambridge or in England, it wasn't a bad place to be. So what brought you to Bar-Ilan? What brought you to Israel in general and then specifically to Bar-Ilan?
So after my PhD, I did another short project at Tel Aviv University and then moved to the University of Cambridge in the UK for my postdoc training. I was very honored to get some funding there to start my own independent line of research and team. And this is where I also started my work with patients with brain tumors. We still collaborate with many people at the university and at the hospital there. So I spent some years there. And at some point, I felt that I think it was the sense of belonging to Israel, to my home country, that brought me back. There were many considerations, personal, professional, family-related. But in the end, I felt that this is the right decision. And in Bar-Ilan, I interviewed in several places. And in Bar-Ilan, I found an atmosphere that I didn't find in other places. People are really kind and nice, and it's just much more fun to do science this way. And and scientific level is excellent. So I'm really happy that I'm now where I am.
And this may be a sensitive question, but as a woman, Did you ever find the science is hard? Did you find it is, if you count the numbers, there are more and more women that are involved, but it is still a male-dominated field. Have you felt support at Bar-Ilan? Have you felt negative? Like, how is that relevant at all? Am I bringing up a variable that you'd say, no reason to even consider it?
So we know from many different studies that women are affected. They are less likely to be promoted. It's across all aspects of research, and we see the numbers, right? So women are about half of the undergraduate students, depending on the field, but then there are much less when they get to professor positions and so on. And my experience is no exception. So I had some challenges, but in other respects, I don't think that comes in every thing that I do. But there were some challenges. I do feel very supported at Bar-Ilan, though, and there are lots of efforts that are being done at Bar-Ilan, in Israel, worldwide, to make this better.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That was my understanding, that Bar-Ilan is actually putting a real emphasis on trying to obviously recruit the best and the brightest, and to make sure included within those are as many women as possible. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about how you got here. Let's talk about the future. If you were to look to the future, what would your vision be? What would your dream be that you personally could accomplish in science?
So, if we go back to the surgeries, we want to map as many functions as we can. We want to be able to give patients the best prospect for recovery and rehabilitation. And this takes an effort of not just one group, of many groups, collaboration of researchers and clinicians. And I think my dream or vision is to make this effort as profound as they can be. Perhaps put together a new research center that will bring together clinicians and engineers and researchers from all sorts of different fields to tackle different questions. I think multidisciplinary research is really essential here. Personally, so our research is not just with patients. We also look at basic science questions. We also have applications in the industry, all within this umbrella of individual-oriented research. So my hope is that the tools that we and others develop will actually impact people's lives. So they will be implemented in hospitals or in other industries. So we can we can change things. One of the most exciting things in research is this moment when you realize that you found something new.
So share with us. What was one of those moments for you?
So we have many different projects, but when I first recorded my first neuron, it wasn't like perhaps something new, but it was. Yeah, exactly, and it was some years ago. But I'm still excited when I think about it. Now we have some new results where we look at communication between brain regions with the electrocorticography data. This is really unique data because they can only be recorded invasively, and they have all sorts of qualities with high resolution in space and time. They are quite rare to get. When we look at these data and the communication between different regions, then we can see some patterns of how different brain areas and networks communicate with each other. And that's fascinating. And I really wish myself and the people in my team to have as many moments like that as possible.
Is it just your team, or do you collaborate with other places? You mentioned collaborations. That this is like, your laboratory obviously is focusing on something and you're doing something unique, but is it cross-collaboration here in Israel or around the world with other teams?
I love collaborating. So we collaborate with many different teams. I already mentioned University of Cambridge, but we also have collaborations in many other countries and centers in Germany, in Portugal, in Spain, just as some examples. And also, of course, here in Israel, we collaborate with several hospitals. For example, the Soraski Medical Center in Tel Aviv and the Rambam Medical Center in Haifa. And also, for example, within Bar-Ilan with the Faculty of Medicine. So yes, I love collaborating, and it's always fruitful when people bring their different expertise to find something exciting and new.
So just from talking to you, I'm inspired. It feels like, we're going to be in a different world in 5 or 10 years because of the work that you're doing. And, God forbid, I or anyone I love has to have brain surgery. I feel like you're moving the whole field forward. So thank you for that. And thank you for joining us today. This has been fascinating and amazing. And the work that you do is, as I said, really inspirational. And you have such positive energy that you bring to it that I can't help but believe you're going to move everything forward in such a meaningful way with both your laboratory and with the collaborations you're doing. So thank you, Yaara.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Good. Wonderful.